Happy Friday. Hey everyone. Sorry for the slow start here. I was doing some testing. I got into the 2K streaming beta on Twitch. So that means streaming at like 1440p. And so I was trying out some different stuff. So apologies to the people on Twitch who have been probably watching the stream go up and down and who are about to get hit by a second ad break, which is pretty rough. Sorry about that. We're running into some issues with the setting up the multi-stream for 2K. Apparently, I can't also stream in 1080p if I'm streaming in 1440p on Twitch. So I rolled back the changes I tried out. Apparently, I can't do both unless I turn on enhanced broadcasting, which I can't do because my primary output is not Twitch. My primary output is YouTube, where we are streaming in 4K, by the way. So apologies for that. Apologies for any issues. From my understanding from testing it before, it's better to just stream at 1080p. It's got a wider support on like the mobile app and stuff like that. So we're going to stick with 1080p for now until they come up with a way, unless I can figure out a way to use my multi-streaming tool to stream at multiple resolutions. Anyway, we're still getting started a little early for today. I'm going to try to be streaming earlier so that we can get our full 3 hours in that we really need to be effective here streaming. Streaming for 2 hours just isn't doing it, both for the stream and for, just the amount that we get done in the day. So we're going to try to be starting earlier when possible and running a little later when possible, but that's a little harder because I usually have meetings. Anyway, we're going to try to finish up our cutaway system stuff today. We're getting really close to a solution that I can be happy with, at least in the short term or the medium term. The goal would be the medium term. What we're doing is we're trying to create a kind of terraced effect. And what I can do right here is kind of swap out our methodology here for a second so I can at least show at the top of the stream kind of what we're going for, and that way breaking it, hopefully, at least for the VODs, it's a little easier to see what I'm doing. I've been switching stuff back and forth a lot, so hopefully this still works, but we'll make this tall stack. And this only is going to work in one direction, but you'll start to see at least part of what we're going for. You won't be able to see the whole thing, but hopefully you can at least start to get an idea of what we want to do. So let's make multiple compartments. So we're going to make a bunch of adjacent compartments. 3 should do it. 2 is already kind of doing it, but 3 should do it even better. So we're basically trying to come up with a system that lets us peer into these solid 3D blocks of compartments. Eventually this will be a spaceship. Obviously it looks nothing like that. Right now it just looks like a flying housing project. Just a cement block. So you can kind of see, especially if I go to the side like this, you can kind of see this terraced away look. It steps back as we go up. What's not happening, which I want to add, is a step forward as we go down. So if we went up to the next level, I would like to see that same terracing effect going down. So we're kind of setting up a process. I also don't love this like valley kind of effect that we've got here where we're like tunneling through the side like this. So we're working on an alternative to this that's a little better. It's more room-based, because right now the terracing back is very arbitrary. It's just a regular step up and back. We're going to start doing it per room. So like we'd step up and clear out the next room, step up, clear out the next room. That's what we're trying to do. We're still working our way up there. And then down, we got to do the same thing going down. So that's the goal. So to start working on that, we have this, we're making a pretty big function that we just call right now cutaway blocks by compartment hierarchy. We're going to dump all the code into here, I think, for now, and we're going to write it pretty verbosely, and then we can work on improving it and abstracting where it makes sense and stuff. So what we're working on right now is iterating through the Z levels so that we can at least just tunnel up. Right now we're handling the case of there's no adjacent parts, which handles the trivial case of like where there's like one room on each level, and we need to work on that. We need to start. I'm going to start by handling the simpler cases and then hopefully grow into the larger cases, and it'll be a little easier to think about and reason about. We do have something fun I want to do tomorrow. I want to play Void War on stream tomorrow. I want to do like a Let's Play for Void War, which is the new FTL-like game that just got released. If people aren't familiar with it, it's kind of like if FTL met Warhammer 40k. I want to check this out. I think this is going to be really cool. I'm going to play this on stream. We might do this on the next few Saturdays until I get tired of it, or we finish it, or whatever. Or I feel like we've gotten everything we need out of it from a dev standpoint. It seems like FTL, but just at a larger scale. Like the ships seem a little bigger. Not a lot bigger, but a little bigger. And there just seems to be a lot more crew. So like instead of like a maxing out around like 7 or 8 crew or whatever, it seems like I've seen maybe a dozen people wandering around the ship. Maybe that's not just yours. Maybe those are like drones or something, but it seems like they've amped everything up a little bit. The production values. Obviously, they didn't have to really iterate on the design, and it looks like they haven't iterated the design on at all. I think we're going to do like a UI comparison and stuff and kind of look at the game side by side with FTL and kind of see what they pulled from FTL and what they changed. So I think this will be really interesting to play. We're probably going to play this tomorrow. Yeah, I'm excited. Can't tell if we've looped this video already. No, we haven't. Yeah, this looks good. I'm very excited to try this. The art is immaculate. It's very much taking the opposite approach that we're taking. They leaned in really hard into like a J. Ma's art style of like the top-down 2D pixel art thing. Yeah, that's epic. I don't like this music we're listening to. Which we are going to swap now. All right, so what we need to do is we're starting at the Z layer of the mouse cursor chords, which is like the layer that you're trying to look at. We're going to start, since this case says there are no adjacent parts, we do need to we do need to do this a little differently eventually, but let's just start tunneling up from that. So we have the Z layer, we subtract from it, until we get to 1. So if z is greater than, it should be if z is greater than z. Oh yeah, if z is greater, no, if z is greater than 1. What happens if cursor coords is 1? That'll just run the first time. So it'll say if cursor coords is 1. If cursor coords is 0, we won't ever get here, so that's safe. We won't even start this function if the coords z level is on 0. So if it's 1, we run this once. We don't run it again because it fails this conditional, so we don't decrement it. So in this case, it would just run once. Z equals z. So what we do is we grab our block. So this parts thing needs to change. So what we can do is we can say so we need to iterate up and through. So we need to say, so we say if we don't have any parts that belong to the cursory parts, continue. So we're looking for blocks in the cursor compartment. If we find one, we grab its coordinates. We check to see the block above it. We figure out if the block above it exists. If it's empty, we don't do anything. Actually, we should do something. No, we don't need to do anything. No, we do need to do something. So we actually need to say, so even what we need to do is we take this, we need to say, oh, no. If it is empty, we can continue. Otherwise, we need to not only add it to the cutaway, we also need to record the adjacent part. We need to say adjacent parts. You can say bit. You can say adjacent parts equals bit.set adjacent parts negative z block dot parts. We already know that adjacent parts is 0 on this branch, so that's okay. I actually think at the start of this loop, maybe out here we need to say adjacent parts equals cursory parts. We already know adjacent parts is 0. So if we do this, we need to do this in a way that we can loop. And this way we don't have to look back across multiple layers. We can just look at the current layer and then go up. I think that's fine. We might end up doing this the opposite way. But this should loop through. So what if we do, let's try a couple layers here. I don't know if I changed it back. I probably didn't. This probably isn't going to work just for that alone. No, I did change it back. Okay, so we're going up 1 level, but we're not going up after that. Oh, because it's not greater than 0. Maybe we need to do the opposite. Maybe we need to look down from above is what we probably need to do, rather than looking up from below. Because we need to be able to remove the layer above us here. Do I not understand how this part works? It runs once with this condition, then it checks this condition, then it goes. Maybe this should be greater than or equal to 1. Yeah, I think that's correct. Okay, there we go. So now what it's doing is it's like just cutting away everything above this compartment because this compartment is alone. If I were to wall this compartment off, everything would stop working because we'd no longer be in this branch. Oh. Oh, no, it still works because... I see, because there's still no adjacent parts. Fascinating. So this case should work. This case will not work. This case will not work. Yeah, okay. But this case works. Weird how... Oh, no. This is good. This is good. So if we went up to this layer and we started to like wall off some of the sides here, this would work a little differently. It's going to be hard to see though. We need to fix one of the other conditions. So if we go down now, yeah, now we get this multiple terrace thing. Okay, so the terracing up is mostly working. The stitch between the layers is wrong. I don't want it to do exactly this. But that's okay. It's a step in the right direction. What we need to do is we also need to handle the step down. So this one needs to be the opposite. So this needs to be 4 integer z equals cursor chords. This is going to be z is less than call levels minus 1. Z plus plus. I wonder if we can do these two loops at the same time. No, because they're different. They'd be different depths. I could still maybe do it though. So for this one, what we want to do, we want this loop. That is more technically correct, isn't it? Put the I++ on the next line. I don't really like it, but... Oh, this is supposed to be I minus... Oh no, this is I++. Yeah, I like it better like this. How's everyone doing on this fine Friday? I'm gonna double check one more time that the Twitch stream is working okay. Looks like we got 1080p working okay. Hopefully no consequences from that experiment we ran at the top of the stream. If anyone's on a phone, I'm gonna make sure that works too. Guess I could check on my own phone. Alright, not getting distracted. Alright, so we're basically doing the same thing but going in the opposite direction now. So now, so at the top of this, we need to set adjacent parts to be, again, cursory parts. Oh, we should probably reset this. Shouldn't we? No, I guess that works, huh? It's weird that that works. All right, let's just try naive. Let's try to do this naively here. Oh, this needs to work a little different. This needs to... How do I do it down here? So here we go... I don't understand why nothing works on this in the main loop. I thought I wrote this pretty correctly. It's not doing anything, so let's keep tackling the less sophisticated case. So in this case, there's no adjacent parts. The thing is, there's no adjacent parts on this level. But I guess that's all that matters. So here we want to say, well, we don't want forward, we want vector 3i.back. I kind of want it, I really want to change these, but I'll do that in my own time. I just want to say vector 3i.z, and that just gives me 0, 0, 1, and I can either add it or subtract it, instead of trying to have to remember whether forward is negative or positive. I guess I could remember with like the right hand rule, but I'd still think it would be more straightforward if I just said like plus vector 3.z if I wanted positive, minus vector 3.z if I wanted negative, instead of having to do back and forward and whatever. I originally wrote this struct to be very much in line with the Godot implementation of vectors, but I'm kind of tempted to move away from that. All right, anyway, what we want to do, so this is actually positive z block. And actually, we don't want to just get the block below us. We want to get... We want to try to get a block in front. So what we actually want to do is we want to say... We can say if positive z block dot is empty, whatever. I actually don't think we want this. I think we want something I've written down here. I think we want this. No, we want... Oh, I wrote this wrong. I see where I wrote this wrong. It's not forward. Oh, unless I'm going in the opposite direction. Yeah, it is. Okay. I want this. I want this check. I wonder if it is better to search in that direction. What I want to do is something like this. So right now we're looking at the for the edge. We're looking for the compartments. What we want to do is we want to do this. I'm doing this wrong. We want to say positive X block. We want to say if positive dot X block, I'm going to say if bit dot has positive X block dot parts. We want has only, I think. No, we want has any. So we're checking for the edge of the compartment right now. So we're actually going to say positive X block or positive Y block dot parts. You need to define positive Y block though. Oh, that coffee is dead. Rest in peace, coffee. Switch to water. All right, so we're going to check our neighboring coordinates on our level. That's what we're going to do. We're going to find the edge of this space. Oh my god. Still needs work. Subscribing at tier 1 for 15 months on a 15-month streak. That's incredible. Thank you so much, Still Needs Work. How's it going? All right, so what we do is we check our neighboring blocks. If none of these, oh no, both of these, it's both. So we need to AND it. So we're looking for the next, compartment below and in front of us. Can we skip this part? Oh, no, because we only want to search from the edge, from an edge. Right. All right, so what we want to do I wonder if there's a better way to do this. There probably is. I just cover this up here. So if we do it this way, it kind of works. So I wonder why this works. I think it's because we're adding compartments as we go up. So by the third level, we're just cutting away all the compartments above us because they're all considered part of this. Interesting. Yeah, let me think about that for a second. This is closer to what we want. It's a lot closer. NATO 89, cool system, but why FTL? Well, it's just the model for what we want. We're similarly trying to make a game that's like about spaceship management. It's about like managing the crew and the systems of a spaceship, with FTL kind of being the perfect, implementation of that. The difference for us is that we're trying to make like an isometric 3D version of it. And so that's requiring us to come up with these cutaway systems and this auto tiler and stuff so that we can display into these 3D ships, because it's a lot easier to render an FTL ship, right? Because it's 2D and it's top down and you only have to see the one level, so it's trivial. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to create these 3D ships in this isometric 2D perspective. So you need to be able to parse into the ship. But yeah, just why FTL? I don't think there's a better game that captures that aspect of ship management. Maybe Cosmeteer. Cosmeteer is really good. I play a lot of Cosmeteer. The creator of that's an awesome guy as well. But I don't think I could make Cosmeteer, It's an impressive game. But FTL, I think I could make FTL, give me enough time. The two of them did it in a year and a half, right? I could probably do mine in like, what, 6 years? 5-6 years? That's the dream. So that's what we're working on. Okay, so I think this adjacent parts thing, I think we actually need to use the other term. I think we need to use occluding parts. So I actually feel like these maybe should be member variables. For now. I also am tempted to make a mask for these. Or make a mask using these instead of what I'm currently doing. What are we called? So it's adjacent parts. It's called cursory parts. I'm going to flip the order of these. Adjacent parts, cursory parts, and private Ulong occluding parts. I also want to make a proper, like, my own bit field implementation rather than just using raw Ulongs to make the helper functions a little more easily parsed. Because right now you're using these, like, static functions from this helper thing instead of just operating directly on the data structure itself. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to... So what we're going to do is we're going to clear these at the top. We can clear them here. Well, we can clear them at the top either way. Cursory parts 0. Adjacent parts. But how are you doing, NATO? Welcome in. Including parts 0. Did I spell including wrong? Did I say occluded? Oh, I spelled it very wrong. I don't know if I could have spelled that word any more wrong. All right, so we'll just clear all the parts is short for compartments in this application as well. All right, and so we're going to get rid of the definition of these things. We're going to say cursory parts. I can't spell anything today. Cursory parts equals. Yeah, I think I want to know some of this information when I get to the next when I get down to the auto tiler, when I'm generating the tiles. I think I want to either generate a mask of all the coordinates that fit these compartment lists, or I want to just use the lists themselves. And that's what these bit fields are. They're like, you know, a description of which compartments. All right, so occluding parts. Why do I not use the... Oh, I have upper and lower. I've defined them there. So here I want to say, here I actually want to say occluding parts, adjacent parts, cursory parts. Actually, we can just skip the adjacent parts thing. We can say occluding parts equals cursory parts. And then there are no adjacent parts, so we're going to use occluding parts here. We should look for... Oh, no, we don't need to look for adjacent parts. Just forget about it. NATO, how are you creating the effect of the walls disappearing? You assume some sort of cone cast. Oh, so here's how our renderer works. So we have an idea of what I call the blocks, the like 3D space. So like these are blocks. So like this is a block. It consists of an upper segment, which is like a wall or bulky segment. Could be a door. And then there's a lower segment, which is like the floor, like the deck plating. So each 3D place is a block. We call it a block. They could be empty. It could be just the floor plate and the upper plate segment empty or whatever. But we have tile map layers. So we're in Godot and we have tile map layers. And we have a different tile map layer for each face of each of these kinds of components. So there is a tile map layer that's only job is to render the x-axis faces of the wall. There's another one that just renders the z-axis faces of the wall. And we have a similar thing for the door or for the floors. And so we have an auto tiler that just looks at the composition of these block areas and then just either cuts away or renders the correct. For one thing, it renders the correct block type or whatever face type. So it's able to, you can see when I do this cutaway, you can see these dark gray lines. So the auto tiler knows that those faces represent like interior faces, like they're the inside of these floor plates, like you can see as I cut away. So it knows to render them that color, and it knows what to do with outlines. It knows all of that stuff. It's a big fancy auto tiler system, and what we're tweaking right now are the rules that govern how the auto tiler cuts away certain things so that you can see other things. So like right now it'll just cut off this wall. We have a local cutaway that just follows the mouse cursor around as well. And so if we block this off, it knows that that it's a multi-compartment setup, and it knows to like do this sort of thing. So it shows us what we're looking at here and over there. It's not totally working, so if we go into the room behind it, it's gonna break, but that's like literally what we're working on right now. I need something to like handle the upward movement. I need something to like freeze. I need something to handle this awkward transition. Like the transition is okay in that case, but it like flickers in some of these cases when I'm going up and down a level. So we could make additional compartments here. In the thing, and it will just keep happening, right? I feel like we need to cut away these, like the teeth on the sides here. I can't really exactly point to them. Maybe I can. These teeth, I think we need them to go the other way. I think they need to cut in, like here. It needs to cut in and then go up like this so that you can see into the side. In the same way that this empty space here needs to get filled in with a floor plate. So we have lots of small issues, which is why I think I need to use masks. I think just using the parts description is not sufficient. I think we need to go back to building a mask as we go along, and then use the mask to determine whether we're cutting away or not. But yeah, in the past, we have used things similar to cone casts. Like right now, we have a much more complicated, like we're looking at compartments and like trying to cut away based on that. But in the past, it's a lot simpler. We've done things like we would send out a cone and like remove all the cutaway things, but that was, to me, was too twitchy. NATO, turn on camera smoothing when the camera is moving up a level, even if you set it low. It should prevent jitter. Oh, thanks. The jitter is not the thing I'm worried about. The thing I'm concerned about is this, which is like, yeah, it's actually pretty. There's some weird things happening, but it's pretty smooth. The thing I'm worried about is this, because we're sampling where the cursor is. The problem with that is when the camera is going up or down, it resamples based on that new Z height. So you can see when I go from this level to this level, it eventually stabilizes, but in between the transition, it thinks the mouse is on the outside of the block all of a sudden, which it is because it immediately jumps up to the next Z level, like jumps up and then recalibrates because the mouse is moving with this. So I need to decide how I'm going to do that. I could probably have just a predictor. It's like, where will the mouse end up after the transition? Or maybe I handle the transition at some midpoint instead of doing it immediately. This is the weird behavior I'm thinking about, but it's a minor complaint I have. And it doesn't happen if we're like fully inside well, I guess it still happens if we're fully inside the ship. It happens in some cases, I guess is how I should put it. So I was just looking at that behavior and thinking it's a little weird, but it's okay. It's a minor problem. And it's not the thing we're tackling today. So what we're doing here is we set the occluding parts to be the cursor. No, that's not right. This isn't right, what's happening here. I wonder if there's a process for this that could work whether or not the adjacent part is 0. this is how I'm handling the general case. It's not working, which is a problem. So let me just look through. So let's forget about this case for a minute. So we walk along the hierarchy through the adjacent parts. We can't do this. What we need to do, so we walk the cursory compartment. We walk from the cursory compartment to find so when we walk the part hierarchy, we get a list of all the compartments in front of another compartment, the input compartment. So we get the cursory compartment. That's all the compartments that the cursor is over. Then we get the adjacent compartments, which are all the first layer of compartments after the cursor. And then what we do is we get all the occluding compartments after that. So then we get every other compartment after the adjacent compartments. And that all helps. The thing is, though, what happens if there are blocks in front of the compartment that aren't in a compartment? What if they're just empty blocks? Do we actually need this occluding parts thing? I don't think so. Does it help? Maybe. It's good enough for now. I think eventually we'll need a process that just keeps aggressively looking outward until we reach the edge of the buildable area, because I can imagine exterior compartments of the ship, or not compartments, exterior sections of the ship, like a wing or a weapon system or something like that, something external that's not part of the interior of the ship. I could see that still obstructing the camera and not being caught by this thing. So maybe the occluding parts thing is actually not what we want. How did we do this when we were doing this with a mask? It kind of worked. So we would go through, we'd get the initial compartment. Compartment is bit.get cursor parts I. So we'd go through each compartment. We'd see if that compartment is set. That doesn't make sense. Oh, we'd see if that compartment was present. Oh, we did a has only check. That's how we would get the interior of the compartment only. That's a good trick. We should do that. And then we'd figure out the adjacent compartment. NATO, it seems all cool. Seems cool. You gotta go. Try and drop by next stream. Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, tomorrow we'll be playing another FTL-like Void War. But yeah. Have a great rest of your Friday. Yeah, hope to see you again sometime. Thanks for stopping by and asking questions. This is where my old system started to break down, was this third and fourth pass to do the extension of it. But I think there's something here. So I think what we should be doing.
Maximum warp.
Maximum warp, Rhiannon Journey. How's it going? Happy Friday. You're excited for the weekend? You're so exhausted from this week? Yeah, fair. We're gonna do our first Let's Play tomorrow. Hope you enjoy your weekend. We're gonna be playing Void War on stream tomorrow, I think. It'll be fun. We're also very close to episode 200. Monday is going to be episode 199, which is technically the 200th episode because we start counting it from 0 like a normal person. But actual episode number 200 is going to be like Tuesday or something. It's going to be exciting. Rhiannon Journey, you've spent all day debugging something that's supposed to work on your current version of PHP and actually needs the latest version. They lied. They lied in the feature support list. Those monsters. I'm gonna think of a slightly different way to do this. So here's where I think the system kind of falls apart. I actually don't think we need to walk the hierarchy recursively. I actually don't think that helps us at all. I don't think it helps us to do that. Because of what I mentioned about the exterior parts that we need to think about. So I think I actually need to build a mask, which is unfortunate. So let's change this a little bit. Let's change this a little bit. So I already have the adjacent mask and the cursored mask and a combined mask. All right, let's try this a slightly different way. Let's try kind of a mixed approach to our last couple of solutions. I'm very much in danger of cluttering all my code. But let's make a version up here. Let's call this one mask blocks by department. Let's say mask obstructing blocks. Buffer 3D read only blocks. I want to try a different tack, and I think the easiest thing to do would be to... I'm going to call this rooms. I think rooms is better shorthand than parts. I don't like parts. I think I want to phase out that as the designation. So we still want to do this. We still want to start the same way. I'm going to say cursor equals... We can say cursor coords. Game.input.cursor coords. We don't need that safety check, but we might as well keep adding it. We're going to say throw new argument exception. What exception do I actually want? It's not an argument is the problem. We're just going to call it an exception. Cursor not within bounds. I don't know. It shouldn't just be a blind, it shouldn't just be a silent return. That should be like an error if we've gotten that far. That's like a problem. We should say something like cursor rooms cursor and cursory feels very... Cursory feels like the wrong word. Cursory is almost a better name for the adjacent rooms. You could say target room. Yeah, cursory is not the right word. Cursor rooms. I'm gonna say cursored. That's so dumb, but that's literally what's happening. It's like, what is the room that's under the cursor? Cursored rooms equals cursor is blocks dot get cursor coords dot parts. If not, bit dot has cursor rooms. We're gonna throw a new exception. Cursor not within any compartment. That's also a problem. Is there an inbounds? Index out of range. That's not really right either. All right, so if we do that and we get a cursor rooms field. Okay, that's the list of the rooms on our level that we're interested in. And then what we do need to walk the hierarchy to get the list of adjacent rooms. We say ulong, we just say adjacent rooms equals walk hierarchy rooms. input is cursored rooms. All right, does it matter if adjacent rooms is empty? Should it matter? Let's see if we can do this in a way where it doesn't matter. So what I want to do is I do want to do this mask thing that I was doing. Otherwise, down here, I do want to make some masks. I want to build out a couple of things. So we could actually just combine the two. This is how we make the adjacent list not matter, I think. Let's see if we can do this. So we can say we're gonna say hash set vector 3i cursored mask new hash set. Don't need to do it like this. Just do it like that. I'm gonna say, well, here, let's make a couple other ones. Adjacent mask, and then what's the last one gonna be? It's gonna be like I'm trying to make a mask of like everything else. Obstruct. I don't know. Just call it obstruct mask right now. I sometimes twist my variables so to make them the same length, which is not a good habit. Like the names. I will be less clear just to get like a good, nice line, which is a very bad habit, I think. I don't love just making a bunch of hash sets. Celestial Mao. FTL's cool. How's it going so far? It's going okay. We're trying to do like an isometric 3D version of FTL. So we're tackling a bunch of issues around making it so you can see inside these 3D ships. Currently working on something like this. Rhiannon, you can't stay long. You're heading out. No worries. Congrats on closing in on 200. Yeah, thanks. I think each time we hit a milestone episode like that, we're going to go back to like we'll go back to episode 100, I think on episode 200, and we'll see where we were. Because sometimes it's hard for me to see what progress we've made, and I think that's going to help me appreciate how far we've come going back and seeing an old episode like that. So right now we can build these kind of spaces. So we can build like a compartment. So there's like 2 compartments on this level, and now we can start to cut away these. So when you're trying to look inside this ship, you can see more information. This isn't a great example. This is pretty rough, but this is just the kind of stuff we're working on. So yeah, there's weird stuff happening that we need to deal with, but it's the direction we're going. We're trying to make, I guess these don't really make a lot of sense, a lot of these rooms. We're trying to make this terraced look so that as you go up and down, you can see further into the ship. It doesn't totally work right now. That was a pretty terrible example, but we're in the middle of changing it, so there aren't really a lot of good examples. I guess it's gonna be cool. You're looking forward to saying, yeah, me too. You have a great rest of your Friday and a nice weekend. Here, let me turn it back to the old way of doing it. A little easier, a little better to demo. But yeah, we have a lot of stuff in place. We have this big 3D space that we can build stuff in. Right now, it's all pretty nondescript. We can build out these chambers. So we could start building out. So you can start to see it in this kind of example. You can see we're going for kind of this terraced look. So that you can kind of see into these 3D ships, but it's very much a work in progress. It's a hard problem, this isometric 3D visibility issue. This is closer to what we eventually want to get to, something like this. But we have a variation of it in mind that we're working on, where it terraces up and away from you, and also down and towards you. So we're not handling that case right now, where like the terrace will go down and below as well. So if we were up one level, we'd also want to terrace down. But we're still working on that. Celestial Meow, that's cool. Kind of reminds you of RimWorld's Save Your Ship mod, but with an additional Z lower. Ooh, I haven't heard of that. I do like RimWorld. I think RimWorld's actually also a big inspiration to this game, because the ships are going to be a lot bigger than in FTL because they're these big 3D spaces. So I think pacing-wise, this game is going to be a lot more similar to RimWorld. Or like, what's another game like that? Stardius. I think Stardius is another good example. Save Our Ship from World. Might have to try this mod. Thank you for the follow, Godot. Really appreciate that. Hope you're having a great Friday. Oh, cool. Yeah, this is a lot like Stardius. Just like the RimWorld version of Stardius. That's cool. I had no idea there was this sort of a thing. That is absolutely wild. This mod must be absolutely huge. Oh, they've got heat. They've got heat simulations. Like heat sinks and stuff. Oh, that is so awesome. This is getting bookmarked. Thanks for the tip. That's really cool. Celestial Meow. Stifudato. Yeah, RimWorld's cool. The new DLC for RimWorld's adding in a similar thing. Oh, you're Celestial. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we multi-stream between Twitch and YouTube. YouTube probably has, better quality in terms of the stream, like, fidelity. But yeah, it's definitely easier to interact on the Twitch side just because of delays. Oop. It's a great mod. Also, you can build weapons and fight ship battles. Yeah, that sounds really cool. I'm gonna check that out. You think Twitch is better? Yeah, I think depending on what you want to do, I think it can be better. But the archives are all on YouTube. And I'm glad the archival quality is higher. Because YouTube, you can't really store VODs forever. All right, so the idea then, doing it this way, did I just swap it back? Or did I just think about it? Oh, I halfway swapped it back. This is called mask obstructing blocks. That's what I'm going to call this. So, merging blocks, and then this deal. I can need the hierarchy more than once, probably not. So are you working on the room designer you showed off? Yeah, we're working on seeing into it. In the rules about how you can see into these 3D ships. That's kind of what we're working on. I call it cutaway. So it's like a cutaway, like an old like naval ship diagram, like where you just see chunks of the ship taken out so that you can see some interior compartment. We need something like that that works on the fly. We've tried like 5 or 6 different versions of it, and we just keep iterating. I think it's a super core part of the game because there's some pretty key visibility problems with making a game like this that's dimetric. So this is like a dimetric perspective here. And this has a lot of problems that isometric doesn't have. Or isometric, the problem is a lot less. So like isometric does have a visibility problem in that if I put a block in front of the block, it kind of obscures the other block, but only kind of. The problem for us is like really exaggerated. So if I just start stacking blocks in front of other blocks, you see the influence of a given block is like much longer. And so we need a very smart system that can pull the blocks away that are in our way. And we have a very smart auto tiler that can break blocks down into individual faces and render only the ones we need. So that's what we've been working on. That's how programming goes, always iterating. Yep. We've had working systems before that were like pretty simple. Like the simplest version of the system is this one, which is the exterior cutaway system. So if I just start drawing stuff, there's a cutaway system here that just works. This one just works based on the cursor coordinate. So it just cuts things away so that you can just see everywhere, right? And this is cool, but it's a little too busy for when you actually have rooms and you want to see into rooms like in a finished ship. So this is good for like editing, so I can like see where I'm building into. But we want a different system for when you're playing the game. So that's kind of the system we're working on now, is like, what's the visibility model for when you're playing the game? And that's all compartment based. So you can tell, we know where the rooms are, where like the sealed compartments are, and we're setting up a cutaway system that plays off of that. Stiff it out. Maybe cut the boxes into 3 different faces and then create a matrix for the Z index and then hide the faces that's next to a number that's not closest to the camera. Yeah, something like that. Your explanation is terrible. Yeah, no worries. We actually already are breaking things into per faces, so the walls and the floors each have their own faces, and each of the face directions have their own tile map layers. So we have a pretty sophisticated auto tiler working. We're just making a lot of decisions about the cutaway. I have a very particular terraced look in mind. I kind of want the rooms to terrace away up and down forwards, so it kind of forms this plane that's like it's like a plane that's kind of aligned with the the far clipping screen of like the camera plane of like the actual visual plane at the end of the cameras. Whatever. My explanations are also terrible. But I think you know what I mean. We're like we're gonna terrace away, but we're not gonna do it per block coordinate. We're gonna do it per room, which requires a little bit more complexity than just doing it blind based on coordinates. Looks good so far. Thanks. Yeah. At this point we're making refinements to this system for like aesthetic reasons, right? Like we've already had a version that technically works, but we need a version that works well. And we're not, I don't feel like we're quite there yet, but I think we're getting close. I'm starting to mix some of the different approaches we've taken, which is definitely complicating it, but I think it's going to ultimately be quite nice. So what I want to do is I want to take, so like the part down here, mask blocks by cursor compartments. I want to do something like this. So why did I have to do this per individual compartment? That doesn't work correctly because of walls and stuff. I don't think I need to do it that way. We can do a has any. I don't think we need to do this. I don't think we need to do this part where we go through each individual compartment. I don't understand why we did that before, if I'm being honest. Okay, so we built the mask and then we had different rules for cutting it away. And I think that kind of worked. It certainly will be easier to build the mask like that, where we don't have to worry about it and we can take some additional steps. So let's do that. Let's have a masking step and then a cutaway step, and then the auto tiler itself will make some additional decisions based on that information for the given tile layer, because each tile layer has different characteristics and probably needs to behave a little differently. So I think we're going to do it like this. So we're going to say integer start equals blocks.aabb.minimum with z equals cursor coords.z end. Oh, it's not an integer. Blocks aabb. Oh, it's blocks.get index. So we get a coordinate, then we get an index from the coordinate. Blocks.get index. Blocks.aabb.maximum. There we go. Have I thought about the systems I want to implement? For example, air generation and simulations, weapons, heat, liquids, other ships. Will this be more of a ship simulator or a ship battle game? Or so here's roughly what we're doing. So I call it like the 9-box battlefield, with the basic idea. So you've got, let me just grab one of these. Yeah, I'll just make it. So you've got like, we'll just have something approximating a ship here. So here's the bounds of a ship. So here's like one ship. We're essentially going to do, let's say this is an enemy ship. So FTL kind of had the version of this that was like very, very abstract. So let's say this is a friendly ship. Oh. Let's do this. Then do this. So let's say this is a friendly ship. Maybe create a new layer before you overwrite something on texture map. I'm not, this is just like scratch paper, but thank you. We're just messing around. I'm not going to save this. I'm making something that I call the 9-box battlefield. So in FTL, you'll just have like a ship and your ship, and there's no spatial relationship between them. But in my game, it's going to be like this. So maybe let's just say you were surrounded on all sides by enemies. That's not what's going to happen. So there would be 9 ships here. So these are the 9. So it's a 9-box system where you're in the middle and the positionality is rudimentary, but it's still there. So like you have a left flank, a right flank, there's something in front of you, there's something behind you. There could be diagonals. And so like maybe you have a weapon that only faces forward. So you need your enemy to be in front of you. Maybe there aren't, 9 enemies here. Maybe there's 1 enemy, and maybe that enemy is chasing like an ally. So maybe there's a friendly ship. So it's a little bigger than FTL. And it involves positionality more. So maybe there's like a friendly ship in front of the enemy ship, and they're gunning down, and you're coming into the rescue, and they're trying to run away, so they're in the front here. So there's a little more positionality. So instead of just having a weapon system, you might have like a weapon turret on like your left side or your right side or in front of you, or maybe you have one behind. So there's going to be a little more thinking about like, oh, do I want to be next to the enemy or do I want to be behind the enemy? Like maybe the shields on my left side are going down because they're just blasting me. So I sneak behind them. Like that's the idea, is there's just going to be a little more positionality. We don't save. That's what I'm thinking of. I call it the 9-box battlefield, but it'll just basically be you're always in the middle, and there might be other ships around, either in front of you or behind you. So it's still pretty abstract, like FTL. Like there isn't precise maneuvering of the ship. It's more like, do we turn 90 degrees? Do we try to get in front or stay behind, or do we try to get on a side? That's kind of what we're thinking about. All right, so let's focus on our own Z layer. That's cool. So the battle map will be in 3D. How would you turn? Will you create textures of every degree, few degrees of freedom? No. Would they be calculated out, or would it rather just be like tic-tac-toe-ish, where you just move to the... Yeah, it'll be tic-tac-toe-ish. So it'll be like, let's say you wanted to turn 90 degrees. You'd like tell the pilot to turn, and then like maybe there will be a countdown. Maybe there will be like a radial countdown or something like that, or a timer of some kind. It'll like count down, and then when the countdown's over, your ship will have turned. So it'll be a sudden change, but it's a possible real-time game. So this would be easier to do in a turn-based game. It would probably look better. But we're doing possible real-time, so it'll be stuff like that, where a timer will go down, and then you'll either jump ahead or turn and move. And you'll be able to see what other ships are doing. So if another ship is like turning to the right, you'll be able to see that that's happening, and you'll watch that countdown, and you can make your own position change in response to that. That's the idea. So somewhere between like FTL and like a more freeform game like Cosmoteer. I still want a heavy layer of abstraction to the positioning system. All right, so we're going to iterate through all the blocks here. We're going to say if bit.has any. Here we got to say vector 3i block coords equals blocks dot get coords I. We could say ulong block rooms equals blocks dot get I dot parts. I don't think we actually need the block itself. Maybe we should. I don't think we need the block itself yet, though. Maybe we just get the block. If it doesn't have any, we can just continue. That's pretty cool. So then there's going to be like 4 different textures per ship. Would you create that or just zoom out of the player map and show their actual creation and just use some fancy matrix transformation to reorder the tiles on the ship to look like it turned? No. Don't worry. There will not be 4 textures. So that's the purview of the auto tiler. So we know what the ship looks like in 3D, and it's the auto tiler's job to draw it in 2D with, you know, the cutaway information and stuff we're talking about. And that's pretty cool because it means we don't actually need textures of the ship. So like if the ship turns left, the auto tiler just redraws the ship from that angle. Same thing if the camera turns left. If the camera jumps 90 degrees to the left, it just redraws everything from that angle. And that lets us do a lot of stuff dynamically. So if the ship starts to get damaged, if the blocks start to say, hey, this block is like basically gone, the auto tiler will draw a damaged block or an empty block, and it will like, you know, singe all the blocks around it or whatever. So yeah, the rendering is all very modular, and it's based on the 3D information of the ship, rather than me having to hand draw, you know, 4 different directions for everything. Right now it's pretty easy to do because everything's very flat. All of our art is very flat. And then the character art is all very simple, little pop-up. They almost look like little pop-up book characters. They're just these little side-on 2D drawings of little guys in chairs and stuff. So yeah, so if we rotated the camera 90 degrees, the auto tiler could just redraw this scene from another viewpoint using just the information that's there, plus whatever the cutaway system tells it to do. It's cool. So far the game sounds interesting. What will it be called? What is it called? It's called Digital Iliad. So it's the same name as this channel. That's the name of the game. It's getting kind of confused with me branding wise, but it's our big project that we'll be working on for, you know, we've already worked on it for over a year, and we've probably got, you know, many more years of it. So I figured might as well be advertising the game at all times, right? There's no reason to mess around with the studio name, you know, if you only, you know, if you're one person. But yeah, I appreciate hanging out and asking questions and stuff. We stream pretty much Tuesday through Saturday each week around this time, so we're streaming the game regularly if you want to check back in for progress. Plus, Digital Iliad sounds cool. I know. I don't think I can think of a better name is the problem. I've tried every combination of words that makes anything that sounds like Star Trek. A, they're all taken, and B, yeah, I haven't thought of a better name. It's kind of a problem. But yeah, it's so. I'm Dave. This is Digital Iliad. It's okay if you call me Digital Iliad. That's kind of how Twitch works, right? All right. So I'm trying this yet another way. It's more like this way. Why did I do this per compartment? There has to be a good reason I did this. Oh, because of the has any. No, that's fine though. Oh, is it for the clear? I can't figure out why I did this one compartment at a time, but maybe it'll become obvious. Yeah, so all we're gonna do is set up the cursor compartments, and then any potential adjacent compartments, and then after that, we're actually not gonna. We don't care about compartments anymore because compartments don't matter. We just need to eliminate everything that would be in the way of these. So that's different than our previous approach for sure. Awesome. That's great. Well, enjoy your weekend. Workday's already done for you. That's nice. What would be a compartment in my scenario? A room or prefab or a whole level or something else entirely? So we have a floodfill system. So because this is like, because this is like an FTL style game, right? We need to know where the rooms are, and we need to know whether they're sealed or not and all that stuff. So the auto tiler is a good example of this. You can kind of see this here. So I'm just going to make a bunch of decks, and then I'm just going to make them solid, and then I'm going to carve some rooms out of them. You can see this mid-tone gray. This mid-tone gray is just an exterior ship color, and then this darker gray is the inside of the ship. So if I make a room, you'll see this room turn light gray. So this, and it cuts the whole thing away. So this lighter gray color in here, this is a compartment. So this is a section of the ship. The auto tiler, or the game knows that this is a sealed ship because we just do a flood fill. And it also knows, if I make another one, that this is a sealed compartment. And it also knows that they're separate. So we create and keep a list of all the separate components of the ship. And so these are compartments. So we're trying to set up our cutaway system to be compartment based. So we're doing this thing where this is the compartment we're looking at, and then we cut away up to the next compartment, and then the next compartment, and the next compartment. We're trying to do this a little differently than what I'm showing off here, but this is the best way to show it off, in my opinion. This doesn't work the same way, does it? Yeah. So I can keep making compartments. So we can get some pretty crazy cutaways. Yeah, it's the inside of a compartment is a sealed room inside the ship, a specific sealed room, whether it's a hallway or like a bridge or like, a closet. We treat them as compartments, and so we want the cutaway system to make it easy to see the compartment that you're mousing in and nearby compartments. That's kind of the goal with it. We're still working our way towards that, though. Stifudato, how do we keep this in memory? Like a huge object, three-dimensional matrix, C for the level, XY for the layer. Object holds what the tile is. So we have a couple different data structures. So we built an entity component system that keeps track of the entities. So a ship is like an entity. Like the whole ship is an entity. And then that entity has components. So it has things about it that are more general. But also, one of those components can be a buffer. So we have a block buffer on every ship, and that block buffer is a densely packed array that tracks all the blocks in the ship, and it has like an axis aligned bounding box that tells you the dimensions of it. So everything is tightly packed in the game. It's either all in component data in chunks, or if it's something that's not appropriate for it to be its own entity, like a block doesn't need to be its own entity. It could be. There's a way we did this where we could have done it that way, but I prefer doing something like that as like a dynamic buffer. that's stored on the entity. So yeah, it's all super tightly packed, one-dimensional arrays that can be expanded into three-dimensional coordinates, you know, by, like you said, you do like have everything arranged by dimension. And you can either pack and unpack it depending on what you need to do. But yeah, the ECS is nice because it lets us, our simulation world is very lightweight. And then the part that's actually in the Godot scene tree is actually just stuff that we need to render, or the UI elements. So like UI elements exist in the scene tree, like our little palette of like block types. All of the nodes that hold the tile map layers. So like these are all our tile map layers. Deck layer X, Y, Z, bulk layer X, Y, Z, doors. Each level has its own node. Each node has its own tile map layers, or each level has its own layers. So we're doing all of the simulation over in a separate area in .NET, and then we port back whatever information we actually need for rendering or UI. So I like that because it means the simulation data can be very lightweight. It's just like, you know, an entity index and then, you know, component data associated with that entity index. Sounds interesting. It could get laggy if I have too much stuff, though, if everything is in an entity, especially if you want to add in like gas sim for which rooms has how much oxygen. Well, so there's a lot of things you can do to get around that, right? Like, you don't need to simulate the gas levels in every block. You could just simulate the gas levels in every compartment. And also, the simulation doesn't need to update at the same frame rate as the rendering, right? So we're doing this in a way to prevent things like that, to prevent, you know, laggy situations with the simulation. I'm not too worried about it. I actually think an entity component system is kind of overkill for a game of this size. We could have done it without. I don't think we would have run into any performance issues, even just using nodes. Maybe a node per block would have been maybe too much, but like we could have pushed it. But yeah, I was thinking about that stuff when I picked the ECS. I like an ECS not because it's like optimized right out of the gate, but because it's very optimizable. So it is stuff we have to worry about. Like our floodfill algorithm is really slow. But that's because I just picked a bad version of the algorithm. Like I can pick a faster one. If the sim is too different from the normal render FPS, it could look a bit weird. And again, you're thinking if I had a hole somewhere, some tiles like trash or equipment could blow towards it. Oh yeah, we should be able to do all of that. That should be really easy. Yeah, it might not be, you know, stuff might not move every single pixel. Stuff might jump a little. But we can also just, like if the simulation has an object jump from one tile to another tile, we could also just render that interpolation between there. So like you can have stuff jump around in the simulation and then have the renderer interpolate between those jumps. So like if a crew member walks from one tile to another, in the simulation a number just increases and then eventually they're in the other tile. And then the renderer handles the animation of making it look like they move from one tile to another. So authoritatively, it all comes from the simulation. So it should be pretty easy to work around that. I think that you get in trouble when there's a lot of talking back and forth between the rendering and the simulation, which is why I didn't want to do it like node-based, which is why I wanted to separate the simulation from the rendering. Because if you start an animation and then you wait for the animation to finish to change the game state, then you have this back and forth and everything needs to be everything. And like, it's just a lot. That's like the game object model or like the node-based model where every object has its own update loop. And that's in my mind when performance gets really bad. But we're using a system-based approach that should hopefully allow us to do a lot of level of detail stuff. That should avoid a lot of those problems. Yeah, just like with Unity. Yeah, exactly. So if you're doing stuff with game objects in Unity, it can be pretty slow, pretty quick. But if you're using Unity's .ccs stuff, their entity component system with their data-oriented tech stack, that stuff is crazy fast. That stuff is insanely fast. I was messing around with that stuff with instance rendering, and the level of complexity that you can have going on if you switch away from an object-oriented model towards a data-oriented model is incredible. I'm trying to recreate some of that magic with my approach here. And complex as well. Yeah, that's also why we're going for an ECS. I don't love the web of references that you end up with. Not my term, someone else's term. But whenever you have a ton of objects and all those objects need to talk to each other and all the objects need to keep references to each other, that gets so crazy so quickly. I love a more I love the ECS structure. There's a lot of stuff that's hard to do in ECS, but I still like it. We were talking about it the other day, like event processing is kind of hard, but we can work around that. We'll figure it out. All right, what am I doing? I'm way behind is what I'm doing, but it's okay. It's Friday. All right, so what I'm trying to do, I've decided, is I'm going to build a mask of all the blocks in this area. And actually, what I think I'm going to do the thing I was talking about, where I'm gonna build the mask and then I'm gonna shift it. Actually, I could just shift it while I'm building it, can't I? So here we would shift, we'd go through every coordinate in the mask, and then we would say, then we would shift it. So if we would generate an offset, and we'd essentially shift the whole mask over by 1 to get the exact behavior we wanted. Because we want to be careful about what we're cutting away and not what we're cutting away, especially on the edges of each compartment. Like the back wall of a compartment. Oh, no. Stifudato. You are not the reason we are behind. I look for every excuse to not do programming. I look for every opportunity to go on every tangent that I possibly could. You are very much not the problem. It's my fault that I have like 6 different functions here that do almost the same thing, and we keep coming up with new ways of doing the cutaway system just to hope to get to the one that I want, to get to one that I like eventually. Want some more of my coffee, but I know it's room temperature. I'm gonna be strong. I'm gonna wait until after the stream, and then I'm gonna go get some more coffee. No, I really appreciate having people in here asking questions, pushing back on ideas. That's super important for the life of the game and the stream and everything. That's the big danger of being a solo dev, is just being siloed and not getting perspective and kind of just working alone. And, you know, it's a danger. All right, so we use the offset. So we look at the actual coordinate, and then we grab the coords of the source, and then we jump. In this case, we jump backwards. -1, -1, 0. If that is the same, if that's part of this mask, which we won't have generated the mask yet, but we can just check the cursored rooms list. So we say, here's a coordinate in the cursored room. Offset that coordinate. If that coordinate wants offset, so if that's not part of this, so we do this in the cutaway. Okay, I get it. I get what's going on here. All right, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do this step while we're building the mask this time. I think that'll be okay. So we go through all of these blocks. We find a block that belongs to this set of rooms. And And then now that we have that, we want to check some nearby rooms. Stifu Data, you feel that? You do so much programming at work, you can't even think about it most of the time when you're finally home. Not having any feedback, let alone constructive feedback, a project can oftentimes shift too much from its original idea. Yeah. It's a problem. Do you do game dev stuff? I know you said you don't want to even think about programming when you're at home. I feel that too. My day job involves... I don't get to do as much programming as I would want in my day job, but it involves a lot. And there are times when it helps. Like I'll be debugging my game and I go back to work and I'm like still in the mindset and I'm like, I do really good work. And then other times I'm just like, I can't even look at a breakpoint right now. Yeah, so what we're going to do, we're going to do the thing I said. We're going to do an offset. We'll do a negative offset. So we're going to say... if not bit.has has any... Well, we need to generate some... We need to check some additional coordinates. So we need to say... vector 3, we can say block negative x block I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing with the corners on the side. See this becoming a problem pretty quickly, actually, if I don't do this part right. So we're going to check both. We're going to say negative x block equals blocks dot get or default coords. Block coords minus or plus. I hate this. I want to change this. I'm going to change this soon. Plus vector 3i dot left. Block negative y block is vector 3i dot down. So we check these two blocks. What we say is if bit dot has any we want to say if not bit dot has any. And we want to say negative x block dot parts or negative y block dot parts. We want to say cursored. Do we say adjacent rooms or cursored rooms? We need the combination. We need to say something like combined. We can say ulong combined. Oh, no, we're not doing the combined check yet. We're just looking for cursored rooms right now, right? Stifudato, you used to do some game dev back in the day. You didn't make any actual games, just some basic walking sims. Now you're working in a small 4-person company focusing on Power BI, Azure, and the like. You're building a Blazor website, your own custom CRM system. Boring. No, it sounds like the stuff that pays the bills, though. No, I'm like you. Well, I'm not exactly like that. I don't work on big, expensive, fancy stuff. But I was a Unity game dev hobbyist for so long, and I did so little. And then I switched to Godot a little less than 2 years ago, and I've been so productive since then. It has been such a better experience for me. I've got some game jams that I'm proud of. I'm working on this big project. Like, I spent so long doing so little, and then just a simple change like switching from Unity to Godot unlocked so much potential for me. It was so good, especially as a solo dev doing like pixel art games and stuff. It was so awesome. All right, so we're gonna say cursored rooms. So if we're at an edge, should it be and? It should be as has. No, it's none. So if we're at any of the edges, yeah, we should and it though, because we're saying if either of these blocks shares a compartment with the cursored rooms, we don't want to add it to the mask. Or if they don't. If either of these compartments is at the back edge or if either of these blocks are at the back edge of that compartment, like the last two rows, we don't want to cut those away, and that's because those are the back walls. We don't want to cut away the back walls. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna exclude those from consideration. And then anything else that's remains is gonna get added to the cursored mask. Probably easier to do this loop multiple times. We're going to say first pass to mask the appropriate blocks for the blocks of the cursored rooms. We can say if adjacent rooms is not equal to... Actually, forget it. Yeah, we should. We should say if adjacent rooms is not equal to 0, we'll do another pass. We'll say second pass if necessary. Well, we'll say another pass. Well, if adjacent rooms, if there are adjacent rooms to the cursored rooms, make another pass to mask the appropriate blocks of those. And we'll basically do the same thing again. Stiff Datu, that's cool. Stiff Udatu. I'll be able to pronounce your name eventually. You couldn't leave behind Unity, as crappy as it is. It reminds you that you are technically working on a project. You're working on a mod for Project Zomboid, where you can generate your own character and you can patch the Steam Workshop close to that character, like a character customization where you can change how much muscle, fat, etc. your character has at different parts of its body, and use some fancy code to modify the rest of the clothes you downloaded. Sorta works. Sorta works is good enough for me. You haven't touched in a year or so? That sounds really cool. I like Project Zomboid. I like these big emergent simulation style games. I haven't played it a lot myself, but I have definitely watched a lot of people play that game. It's super cool. I get kind of, I like a good roguelike, like anyone, but the ones where you like invest so much into it and then you could just die and the game could be over, like XCOM or like Zomboid or like any kind of like Iron Man run of a game, that like devastates me. Stifudato, don't worry, your name's nonsense. I can just call you Nix. Okay, Nix. That's great, and that doesn't resemble your YouTube or your Twitch name at all. Cool. Well, we have a Discord, Nix. Hopefully your Discord name is at least Nix. If you want to follow the game there, we have go live notifications and stuff, and people share their work or ask for help. I know you don't seem super active in the game dev stuff, and most of the people in that Discord are Godot developers, but I still want to invite you if you're interested in. You also have another name on Discord? Hell yeah. Well, I'm Digital Iliad pretty much everywhere, so if you see me, you know who I am. All right, so we're gonna do another loop for the adjacent rooms. This is pretty much still exactly the same, I think. All right, the auto tiler is really good with boilerplate. Not the auto tiler, the autocomplete is really good with boilerplate. Oop. It did really not good there, though. All right, so if not has any negative X block. All right, we're going to do the same thing with the adjacent mask. I think this will make our life a little easier. And then what we need to do... Oh, look at you. Thank you for using the... Oh, nope, you changed your nickname. I was like, oh, good, you're going by Nix. Welcome in. Thanks for joining. No way, then it would be too easy to recognize you. Yeah, we can't have that. I'll be talking to someone and I'll be telling them a story about like the dev about something they were telling me, but I don't realize it's them. I'm like, oh, that's interesting that you're working on that. I know another dev who's doing something very similar, and they're like, that's me. I'm the same. That's I'm like, okay. Well, I'm bad with names. So apologies if I do that to you at some point. Yeah, you do the same. All right, so that's the second pass. Can I just move this part down? That'd be better. I'm pretty sure these are going to be member variables eventually. But right now, we'll just declare them all up here at the top. And then there's going to be a remaining pass to So with one more pass to mask the remaining blocks in front of the cursored adjacent rooms. Of this Z level. Here's the trick. We're going to need to do this for different Z levels after this. But I think we need to do this once initially, and then we can do that. And we're just going to write this out. I have so many of these different functions. We're just going to write this out as one huge function. And then if we're happy with it, we can start abstracting it and stepping it out into different things. All right. So we'll say obstructive. We'll say obstruct. Is this a... Oh, we'll say U-long. Obstruct rooms. Obstruct is not a good word, but it's what we are. And we're not going to walk a high... Oh, we could walk a hierarchy. We don't really need to do that, though. We could say obstruct rooms. We could say adjacent rooms. Or cursored rooms. So we could start with those. And we can just iterate out. Hey, Fusionist, how's it going? And this way it doesn't matter whether the adjacent room list is 0 or not. It gets added if it's there. I'm going to do this in the other order. What's up? Still working on my cutaway. I think I'm pretty I've got an idea. I think I've got the final idea for it, which is a terraced compartment-based look. So it terraces up and away from you and down and towards, quote unquote. It's basically going to form like a kind of plane that's mostly parallel with the far clipping plane of the camera, or the near clipping, the clipping plane of the camera. We're basically going to make kind of like a terraced kind of like planar cutaway, but we're going to do it per compartment. So it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfectly like planar. It's going to be, we step up and see back compartments and step down and see forward compartments. Oop. Someone is trying to drop off a package. I need to let them do it. 1 second. I'm going to buzz them in here. All right, I think that's taken care of. Oh, my oats got dropped off. That's exciting. My rolled oats. I'm making gestures. No worries. Fusionist, we're making this terraced effect. I think I'm gonna be happy with that. It's kind of hard to explain, which is why I was wildly gesturing. But I think this is the ultimate solution here for how I want the cutaway system to work. It's kind of a blend of some of the other approaches we've taken. How are you doing? Happy Friday. And then tomorrow, we're going to do a Let's Play stream. We're going to play Void War on the stream. I think that's going to be fun. I'm going to refill my water. Be right back. 20 seconds. Yeah. I think we're gonna keep playing it. I'm back, by the way. I think we're gonna keep playing Void War on like Saturdays until I'm tired of it. I think we'll make it like a regular thing when a game comes out that I feel like we should play for design reasons, for research. So I think we'll do it a few times. But yeah, it'll be cool. It'll be cool to talk about that. I'm interested in comparing what they've just copied whole cloth and like what they've innovated on and iterated on. All right, so we do this one more time. Research, yeah. You saw that game on Steam, actually, and thought about me? Yeah, it's pretty crazy, that game. It's like, it's very blatantly like ripping off FTL and also Warhammer 40K. And like the Warhammer 40K ripoff feels so risky to me because I don't think Subset Games is gonna sue you, but Games Workshop sues people. It's kind of crazy. I looked at some of their chaos ships and they look like straight like almost like tracings of like some of the chaos like Battlefleet Gothic ships. I'm like, you guys are really pushing limits here of fair use. But it seems to be working out for him. No one seems to have, sued them into oblivion. All right, so we're not going backwards now. What we need to do is we need to go forwards. So instead of checking the negative blocks, we need to check the forward blocks. And we only really need to check, we can check the positive XY block. I actually think I want to do both the X and Y block. I'm thinking about how I want the terrace to work along the sides, and I actually think I want it to work like this. So we'll say positive X block. We'll say positive Y block. And here we'll say if positive Y block. Frolansky, what the heck? Some developers have getting sued planned in their budget. No worries. You're subscribing with Prime. Don't worry about it. That's awesome. How's it going? You still got your founder badge, so don't worry. Your legacy is intact. How are you? How's life? We're working on this cutaway system that's pretty complicated. I can show you a slightly older version of it. We're refining this kind of terraced cutaway thing that we're working towards. This is like maybe like a couple versions ago. This version still works, but where we like can make some rooms. We can start cutting off compartments, sub-compartments. Yep, didn't want to do it that way. Not that it matters. Oh yeah, we do have to disallow double walls. We're not going to be able to support double walls, double thick walls, which is fine. They're not very interesting. They're almost anti-interesting. So we're trying for this kind of terraced look. But this isn't exactly the way we want it to work, so we're continuing to refine it. But it's something kind of like this. But it's more compartment-based. I think the eventual solution. You're good. Life is very stressful right now. A lot going on, including having a baby. Oh, wow. Congratulations. I don't know if that's an appropriate occasion to ship it, but you're shipping it. You're shipping something. Well, happy Friday. Hopefully you get some relaxation this weekend. We're good. We're working. We're going to do our first Let's Play stream tomorrow. I can't stop shutting up about it. We're going to be playing Void War. Just hoping some come back and check in. I don't know what it's going to be like to do a Let's Play stream. It's going to be interesting. I don't think it's the most popular game, but I'm excited to play it. Alright, so we're going to do this for each of these blocks. What we can say is we can say no, we need to do it. We need to do it like this. We need to say if bit dot has positive x block dot parts struct rooms if it doesn't have any, and instead of continuing, what we want to do is we actually want to add that to the mask dot add. We want to do the same thing here. Similar hours tomorrow for that? Yeah, similar is the usual.
What in the name of heaven
Maybe.
is this?
Oh my god, a hype train is coming in. We're probably going to do it every Saturday until I get tired of it, by the way. Thank you so much, Stifudato, for the subscription, for the tier 1. Getting us to the level 1 hype train. That's incredible. I don't get hype trains, so thank you. Thank you. We're a small stream here. I do have a day job. I'm not a full-time game dev, so don't worry. You don't have to throw your money at me. But it is nice when it happens. Thank you. Thank you for the hype. You're just happy Twitch was able to send through your subscription? It usually doesn't work? Oh, well, lucky me. Lucky me. You get the DI, the Iron DI subscriber badge. Got your dissertation to do tomorrow. Some fantastic background stream. Nice. Yeah, that should be good for that. Should be good for that. It might be a little violent, but I'm excited to play it. All right. So this way we should be able to... Oh, no. This isn't right. Oh, this is... How are we going to do this? We actually have to go... We have to keep look... Oh, man. We actually need to do something different. We actually need to say... Instead of doing this positive X block thing, we need to do this differently. We need to say, for each... Vector 3i... we'll just say chords. In the new AABB we're going to make using block chords. Well, hold on. No, we can do it this way. It really doesn't matter how we do this. This really sucks. There's got to actually be a better way to do this. Maybe we don't care. Maybe we don't care. Maybe we don't need to do this in the tile system eventually. Maybe we could do this when we are making structural changes. Maybe we could cache some of this stuff. What we need to do right now is we basically need to iterate towards the edge of the screen. Oh, a huge essay sounds worse than a test. A test you can at least just kind of, you know, YOLO your way through. Yeah, I'm glad I don't have to be thoughtful anymore. I just live stream. I don't need to write essays. I don't need to actually think about what I'm going to say, you know. I can just come out and say it. All right, so this is probably really dumb if we make a new axis aligned bounding box from this coordinate and then just going out, because we just need to, the way I did this before is we would just mask through all the compartments. But that's not going to work here because we need to account for the possibility of decorative exterior components that we need to cut away. That I want to cut away. We don't need to cut them away, but I want them to cut away. Because we tried a more narrow cutaway where we left elements in the foreground that didn't explicitly block our vision, and it felt so noisy. Felt so noisy. So I don't want to do that. Yeah, I hope you're able to finish it this weekend as well. That'd be great. Would it be bad to, like, start to build out the mask? To do this iteratively like that? We essentially need to start from every edge. Yeah, we essentially need to eliminate every coordinate. Yeah, this sucks. This is going to be a lot of duplicative effort, but it'll work okay. If tomorrow isn't the due date, today isn't the due date. I love that. That's some good wordplay there. Yeah, this sucks. We're going to need to search through these big AABBs from every coordinate that matches our coordinate here. We're going to need to say this, and then we're going to need to say blocks.aabb.maximum. This should be fine. I guess we only do this for one ship, and it's the ship that's in our active view. So this is probably fine. Sounds expensive. Yeah, it sounds a little expensive. I'm not worried about doing a less than optimal thing in the moment, because we can always figure it out and improve it later. I just want to get the correct behavior that I want. And once I get the correct behavior that I want, we can refactor away the inefficiencies and maintain the same visual behavior. So let's just focus on getting something close. So what I want to do is I do want to find an edge. So I do want to keep these positive X block and negative X block deal. I want to keep these. And then what I want to do is I want to say if bit dot has any positive X block dot parts or positive Y block dot parts struct rooms continue. So yeah, if we're at the interior, if we're in the interior, let's not do the search. That at least saves us some effort. So we at least have a small number of starting rooms, but each time we identify a valid room, we need to do a AABB look outward from there. You lived by those words for years, Forlansky. You've always regretted it, but this is the last thing. Then you're totally done with education. You can just work. You're in an apprenticeship, so you're juggling both right now. Dang. Well, good luck. Stifu Dado, maybe create a dictionary of the coordinates I want as a key and then reference back to the tiles blocks you want. We kind of do that. What we're doing is we're building a hash set. There's no data associated with it. We're just coming up with a list of vectors. So we're building a hash set, but that's not the entry point. I mean, the starting point is we're basically working our way through a single layer, and we're masking out all the coordinates we want to cut. And we can't just say cut everything. So this should be fine. This is honestly not that expensive a thing to do. It's certainly not that expensive a thing to do that you only need to, well, we do probably want to build something, because what we have is we have like a hierarchy of the compartments, and that was really helpful for this. Maybe we could use that first. Maybe we use the compartment hierarchy, and then what we do is we search from there. Yeah, maybe we can do this in multiple parts if it gets expensive. We could search outward from there, because the thing we want to track, or the thing I'm worried about that the compartment based masking doesn't fix, is the only thing it doesn't fix is if there's like exterior pieces that are in the way, like wings or things like that. I'm gonna do it this way because this way is simple. It's not efficient, but it's simple, and if it works, we'll improve it later. It needs to be this and right? No. You're not sure you understand why having wings in the way would be a problem? Those would be compartments too. No, they're not compartments because we determine compartments by doing a flood fill. So a wing would just be like a single layer thing. Even if it was 2 layers, it would not have an interior piece. It could just be, if you imagine like the wings of like a bird of prey or something. Like those aren't compartments in there. They're just wings. And we need to cut them away, but they aren't in our compartment hierarchy because they aren't compartments. They have no interior spaces. They're only exterior things. So I can't do that. That was a real slick way I was doing this in the last method, but I see that there are blind spots that approach has that we need to work around. And that's okay. We can work around the blind spots. I can simplify this search too eventually. So what's this continuation? This continue, we continue if we're not at the edge. How do we tell if we're not at the edge? We're not at the edge if either of these comes back. No, if both of these comes back. So this needs to be an and. There we go. So we can at least limit the number of starting blocks for the search, and then we just need to complete the search. We do have a used bounds limit. I think that's part of this. Yeah, it is. Okay. All right, having internal space for the wings, using them as normal rooms, just giving them a different attribute to mark them as wings could be cool. Could even use the same code to fill the room with equipment or something, like special objects like a thruster or something. Yeah, I mean, you could do that in that specific case. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to come up with a case that can do the cutaway and still account for things that aren't rooms, like antennae or like a nose or like structural bits for that don't have an interior part corresponding to it. So I'm just trying to come up with a solution that's robust enough to handle that case. But it's not a huge deal. It would be easier to ignore that case, but I think it would be better to go directly. Just handle that. This music is agitating me a little bit. It's good. But it's intense. I say intense, it's like still jazz. All right, so from here, we're gonna check all of these. What we're gonna do is we're gonna say if blocks.get rewards.parts, okay, if bit.has any maybe we call these uncalled rooms. Is uncalled the same length as obstructed or obstruct? It is. Okay, I'm calling these uncalled rooms then, because that's what we're searching for. I like that. Uncalled. So that's what these are. Song was pretty groovy. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I just get kind of worked up sometimes towards when I'm deep in a thing like this, but the vibe we try to go for here is like super chill. So if bit.has any blocks.get parts, uncalled rooms, then we continue. Yeah, we can get blocks out of the block buffer so quickly that searching huge swaths of the block buffer is not an issue. It's packed tightly. It's packed by Z level, so it should be pretty easy to search. That's kind of why I've set up the block buffers the way they have, or any of the three-dimensional buffers, is for really quick searches of large swaths of it by spatial relations, which otherwise is hard to do with entities. All right, if bit.has any, so if this block that we get is part of one of the uncalled rooms, we just continue. Otherwise, oh, we need get or default, by the way. Get or default. Otherwise, we say do we still call this obstruct mask? I'm going to call this the cullable mask. It's the opposite of the cursored mask and the adjacent mask. Well, I guess the cursored mask and the adjacent mask I'll call it cullable for now. So this is going to be an addition to the cullable mask. All right, so this builds the mask for 1 Z level. Let's see if we handle that. All right, so these hash sets should indeed probably be these member variables. I don't need these. I'm not going to do it like that. We're going to comment out this function because I think we're abandoning this particular approach. This approach was cool, but we're going to need to adapt it. Review that later. Get rid of this. This doesn't do anything. Get rid of this. This doesn't do anything. This is still useful. This is still useful. All right. I'm going to put the interior one for now. All right, cool. Probably close to wrapping it up here for the day. I didn't achieve the 3-hour stream I wanted to. But we had a good stream. We'll definitely be back tomorrow with our cool Void War Let's Play. That's gonna be pretty great. I should probably set up some stuff for that. And then next week we'll be back to work. I will probably try to finish this version of the cutaway system over the weekend, off stream. And yeah, and Monday. I'll probably try to do it before our next Tuesday stream so we can like review it and expand on it and hopefully move on. I would really love to move on from this cutaway stuff because there's a lot of other work to do. But I think the cutaway system, knowing how that works, is going to very much inform the way we design the ships because we're getting really close to the point where we're going to start designing ships. Like the tool's almost done enough where we can start doing that, and that's going to be really cool. I think all this stuff informs our design sensibility there. Try to join sometime next week then? Yeah, hell yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Stiffo Dado. Thank you for the sub, hanging out. We probably have time to raid someone. Let's see if there's anyone that stands out here. Exo Drifter's on. They might be good. Yeah, Exo Drifter's working on a really cool game. They're going to head over there. You have to put in some work in Blender. Well, good luck. I hate working in Blender. We're going to set up our raid. This is a really great Godot dev that we're going to be raiding into here. They're working on a really incredible game called No Signal. Really great. Almost done, too. They're almost done with that game. It's going to be amazing. But yeah, I really appreciate everyone hanging out today. Happy Friday. Wish you all much luck, whatever you're doing. Hopefully not too much. It's time to chill. Get ready for the next week. Hope to see some of you tomorrow at our Void War stream. Around the same time. Maybe a little later. We might start a little later, go a little longer. It's Saturday. It'll be Saturday after all. Yep. Thanks for Lansky. It was awesome seeing you. It's been a minute. Good luck with your dissertation. Yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you next time. Bye.